Hi, I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is my August reading wrap up. In the month of August, I read 11 books. I DNF'd 4 of them, and so I'm going to talk about 7 today. The reading slump has really been not great at all. In fact, you might be like, didn't last week we watched you read 4 books in one long weekend, and you're telling me you only had 7 for the whole month? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's been really bad, guys. This might be a new low. I'm not sure. It's definitely one of the lowest. I don't know. Reading has just not been going well at all in the idea of doing a lot of reading. As you will see, I have a couple big hits and I have a favorite of the year. So even if that was my only book, it would be awesome. As always, we're going to go in chronological order. If it's on Kindle Unlimited, it's marked in the description. All that fun stuff. Alright, the first book that I read for the month was Slaying the Shifter Prince by Claire Sager. I gave this 5 stars. This is a enemies to lovers assassination attempt fails, and instead of killing him, she becomes his captive because her life is forfeit for trying to take his life. He is a exiled shifter prince and she is a circus performer, so she is an aerialist. So, she climbs the scarves is what that demonstration was. And she's very, very good, but her sister was murdered several years ago and she believes that it was him, and that's why she's been trying to kill him. He makes her his pet. He doesn't necessarily let other people harm her, but this is one of those things where I've seen it advertised as bully, but I wouldn't call it bully because bully is peer-to-peer in my mind. This is very much, she's his captive. He kind of can't stand her, and when he does end up falling in love with her, he completely changes the way that he treats her. He's no longer trying to harm her, right? And he does have limits with the amount of harm that he is willing to cause her, but the biggest thing with them is a battle of pride, right? And this is something that I really like for these types of situations. It's something I really like for my main characters to understand kind of in general. That you cannot be degraded, you cannot be embarrassed, you cannot be forced to do something that you take the power away from that and decide that it just doesn't bother you. You're going to win this. They're not going to be able to reach your limit. You are going to beat them at their own game. And that is very much what the two of them are doing, is they're having a game where they are trying to be the one who destroys the other one. And obviously he has the power because he has the strength and the core and, all of this. But that does not mean that she is powerless. And that does not mean that she doesn't get any hits in on him, because she definitely does. There's lots of degradation in this. You can't mortify me or break me if I don't allow you to. And if I don't care about what you ask of me. Again, to me, if you're going to be cruel to each other while you are enemies, that's okay. If you are going to be cruel to each other because you have a crush, I don't like that. If you're going to be cruel to each other after you are already falling in love with each other, I don't like that either. I want to see a progression where what was okay when you were my enemy and I happily would have slit your throat is not going to be okay once you're my significant other. Again, if you like degradation or if you don't like degradation, that's an important thing to know going into this because there's a lot of it, and exhibitionism and things like that. Also, he has a tail and it is involved in some of the scenes. But yeah, this is a very steamy standalone fantasy romance, and we just don't get that many of those, and this was a really good one. But again, if you don't like that, I hate you and I want to crush you beneath my boot, but most importantly, I want to crush your spirit and we're going to see who wins, then you won't like this. Next, I read 2 volumes of Nina the Starry Bride. I gave both 4 stars. I read volumes 8 and 9. This is my favorite fantasy romance manga series that I'm reading because of Izzy at Happy for Now. She is an orphan who looks like a princess that was killed. She was not the princess's double before that. It's not until the princess dies that she is snatched up off the street, substituted for the princess/priestess, and she is going to have to do an arranged marriage to try and save the kingdom. There's a love triangle. Here on volume 9, I have no idea who's gonna win or what's gonna happen with that. And I am just loving it. Loving the vibes, loving the political intrigue, loving all of their interactions. She's a little too good, She's a clumsy, heart of gold, perfect little angel That's fine. I can go over it. Next, I read the highlight of my reading month, one of the highlights of my reading year, and that is Long Live Evil, which is Time of Iron #1 by Rees Brennan. 5 stars. 5 fucking stars. Everybody should read this book. You should all read this book. Everybody should read this book. I love it so much. We have a 20-year-old girl here in our world who is dying of cancer, so obviously that is a very big content warning for this book. The author has ended up surviving stage 4 cancer, and you can really tell the experience that was written into this character and what it's like to go through cancer treatment. Because she is dying, she's actually given an offer to go into her favorite book and get a flower, and if she is able to pluck this flower of life and death, then she will come back whole and healthy and ready to live her life again. And so of course she takes the opportunity. It's her favorite book, and she goes into the book fully aware, fully remembering that is a book. She knows who the characters are, she knows what the tropes are, she talks a lot about tropes and character types, and well, you're the damsel in distress, you're the hero, you're the villain, you're a side character that's not important at all and is probably gonna die. You know, things like that. And she really leans into being a villain. There's a lot of really funny one-liners and a lot of great quotes and just a lot of meta-ness of this character, knowing which book she's in, that she's in a book, how the book that she read went, and who's important and who's not, right? However, because she's the villain, and because technically in the book she dies like right away after the point that she enters the book, she's trying to change her fate specifically, and stay alive long enough to get this flower. And so as she is doing things in the book, the story is also changing, and so things she thought she knew, she no longer knows. I got this as a arc on NetGalley because Katie Roberts talked about how much they loved this book and really made me want to read it because I love villains. I'm obsessed. There is a spy master with a heart of gold. There is a axe-wielding death maiden. There is a sociopathic assassin. There is, of course, our villainess. There's just a lot of different characters and a lot of different things that like are some of my favorite types of characters to have in fantasy, and them being talked about in the book as specifically those character types was just very fun. If that sounds interesting to you at all, this was like a perfect execution of it. Like if you like the idea of a character going into a book and knowing that they're in a book and talking about how they're in a book, and that's not going to like annoy you, then you're gonna love this book because it's so well done. It is doing what it wants to do so incredibly well. And the ending of this book, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop. I want to reread it. I want to own the special Lumicrate, I think, edition that came out. I want to read book 2 right now. Right now, it is supposed to be a trilogy. It was everything I could have wanted it to be, and more, and more. And I'm so excited about it, and I just want everyone to read it. I want to get to talk all the spoilers in DMs. I want people to read this book and talk to me about it, and I want to read more of it. Then I have Hearstone by L. Catherine White. I gave this 4 stars. This is Pride and Prejudice retelling with dragons. If you are not super interested in the Pride and Prejudice retelling part, I don't think that you will really love this book. But if that, you know, is your jam, then you're going to really enjoy it because it's a very good version of that. And I read this because of Mara at Books Like Whoa years ago, putting it on my radar and talking about how great it was. It's never really left my mind, and I'm really glad that I did finally read it because it was exactly what I was hoping it would be. Very safe read, especially if you like Pride and Prejudice. A very good option when you just need something that you know all the beats it's going to hit, but maybe you don't actually want a reread. Then I read Just Right by Sean. I gave this 3 stars. This is a Black love, polyamorous, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears retelling. So she does break into their house and they do find her and all of that. So you have a married couple who they are both bi men, and then you have their platonic soulmate, basically, that is their best friend that also lives with them. So all three of them live together, but two of them are married, and all three are involved with her. Their actual relationship was so sweet and so steamy, and they spoil her and they do absolutely everything that you could hope. The caretaking, all of that. This has endometriosis rep. We just love seeing our main characters get loved on and spoiled and money spent on them and fed and, you know, just all of the good things. We like that. The things that I did not love about this book are that the married couple ask her to be their girlfriend, but one of them panics and specifically says that it's for 90 days. And there was no reason to do that, because that's not what they wanted in the first place. And and of course, you know, they kept having to put off telling her that they changed their mind and they wanted her to stay. So it was a whole big, completely unnecessary and contrived conflict. What I'll say for that is authors write the tropes that they like, you know, and this is an author where my taste in tropes and their taste in tropes has a pretty good overlap, but there's also a pretty good section of what they like is what they're writing, obviously, as is their due. However, I'm only going to like about half of it. So sometimes their books really, really work for me, and sometimes they don't. And it's usually the conflict that doesn't really work for me. The other thing I did not love in this book was there is a familial conflict storyline that I just kind of didn't love anything about it. I didn't really like the way it happened. I didn't really like it. It kind of gave me icky vibes that might not even be fair to it, but I don't know. It just didn't work for me at all, that part. But as far as the actual relationship and being a safe black wide shoes, that part was all phenomenal. So if that sounds good to you, pick it up. Those conflicts were the things that made me give it a lower rating. And lastly, I read Cubs and Campfires, which is Sweet and Stocky #1 by Dylan Drake. So I gave this 4 stars. This is a sweet and very steamy fat men with absolutely no body shame and no body shaming and no conflict about any of that. Male romance by a gay male author, which we're always looking for. So this one guy is a journalist. He needs to write an article about being celibate, so his plan is to go as far away from civilization as he can. And of course, a guy who is exactly his type and is so sweet and lovely shows up in the middle of nowhere. They're naked a lot for no reason. It's fat man with thick thighs, low conflict, low angst. They are really good to each other, and I love that. So it's a very safe, very fun, very sweet read. It would be perfect for a palate cleanser. It's perfect if you just want to watch two people being good to each other, you know? So I recommend it for that. So that's it. That's all the things that I read in August. A low reading month. So for diversity, out of the 7 books I finished, 5 of them were diverse. They were either by BIPOC authors, by queer authors, had queer main characters, or had disability representation with their main characters. It's over the 50% rate that I strive for, so go me. I did start the month 28 books ahead of my 200 book reading goal, and I ended the month 18 books ahead of my reading goal, so I fell behind by 10 books. So I really just did not have my normal reading pace at all. Part of that was some NetGalley arcs that I was trying to push through. I ended up DNFing them anyways, but like a lot of the slump I think had to do with that. So that was unfortunate, but true. So same thing that I said last month, we're gonna say this month. Hopefully, you know, the next month will be a much better reading month. August was honestly just not a good month in any way, really. So I'm glad it's September. I'm looking forward to this month. I hope that it goes so much better, and I particularly hope that I read a lot. So that's the goal. Hopefully I'm seeing you with like another 20 books next month. But let me know if you have read or want to read any of these, and if you're going to pick up one book, please pick up Long Live Evil. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.